Okay, so yeah, just to introduce you to rivercane. Rivercane is it's one of 3 bamboo relative species that are indigenous to the Southeast United States. Before I got to come to live in the Southeast, I did not even know that we had native bamboo relatives in the United States. So it's kind of an amazing thing, especially considering how important rivercane has been throughout time to not have that awareness. And it's not just me, it's many people. So it's a monotypic bamboo species. It forms dense rhizomatous mats along rivers, streams, embankments, and you can see pretty much concentrated there throughout the Southeast. And not surprisingly, it's of incredible cultural importance to many, many tribes, over 35 different indigenous communities in the Southeast. And I just wanted to share a couple of examples of the artistry and the genius of working with rivercane that we can see through different cultural practices of basketry. Each community has a slightly different style, techniques, their own patterns that get used, and just to honor and respect that. And also some of these vessels are woven so tightly that they carry water. These are incredible feats of technology, and more about that in a little bit. But a lot of people consider cane break systems, not the river cane itself, but the ecosystem, to be endangered. So across the Southeast, these used to be like historically incredibly dense systems. And we can see, these are some excerpts from William Bartram's travels, describing what he's encountering across the Southeast as he's slogging his way through cane breaks, which if you spent time in bamboo or in anything like this, it's dense, it's hard to navigate, right? But a lot of these places have been drastically diminished. Cane breaks have been drastically diminished across the Southeast over hundreds of years for a variety of reasons that I think we might anticipate. The land use change is like the biggest part, but it starts with things like this, the bottom here. So he went through an enormous cane break, which was alive with cattle. He grazed the cattle was grazing on the nutritious leaves. So settlers figured out that rivercane, which are systems that have been managed by indigenous peoples across the Southeast for millennia, were excellent fodder. So this started an erosion of cane break systems. Then we had channelization and damming of rivers that changed the hydrology of rivers and where rivercane could grow. And farmers have in some places a little bit of a vendetta against rivercane because those alluvial fields where people like to grow crops are very similar to where rivercane grows. And oftentimes in indigenous management systems, they were nurtured along those farm fields so that there was access to cane all the time for all these material needs and uses. So a lot of people would say that rivercane, it's still here, it's surviving, but it's not thriving because those connections and those relationships with rivercane are damaged. And so, as I mentioned, I gave a preview of the highlight of some of that cultural genius and cultural connection. But just to reiterate that rivercane is a source of identity, cultural continuity, and indigenous knowledge across the region. It also has a variety of different really important functions in ecosystems that are missing when you take the rivercane out of the system. So runoff and erosion control are a couple of these. Like, they do an amazing job for bank stabilization. It also provides incredible species habitat and for a number of endangered butterflies, some thrush species, the cane break rattlesnake. The list goes on. Point is, there's many reasons to love rivercane, and it's still not that well known. So, but it's incredibly known within tribal communities, indigenous communities. And indigenous communities are the ones in the Southeast that have been leading the way on rivercane restoration and outreach efforts. And actually, thank you so much, Paul, for your presentation, because it dovetails beautifully to the point where what Paul was sharing and some of that information about land dispossession and removal from land and the need for access is so great, that this is something that we're reckoning with all across the United States and in the Southeast as well, right? So we have a mosaic of different land ownerships, including a federal land base. And these are all tribal homelands, but they're just currently managed by federal agencies. These are the places where we need to be thinking about restoring rivercane and working together with tribal communities. So through consultations, through listening sessions, a lot of different tribes came to the Forest Service and said, what are you doing about rivercane? Like, when are you going to do something about rivercane? And so we decided to get together and do something about rivercane, right? And I'll just take a quick minute to mention that some of our work, it's important to think about the larger scale changes that are happening in places, in countries like the United States. So it's important to note changes that are coming from the top down, like this White House memo on traditional ecological knowledge and federal decision making. So there's people like me who are on the ground working with communities, and having guidance like this really helps us broaden our impact. There's a lot of questions in there. There's like a lot of gray areas, but the point is that there's a broad scale change that's happening on multiple levels that I'd be happy to talk more about. But to get back to where we're talking about and loving rivercane, so back in 2018, thank you. Back in 2018, several people from the Forest Service, Roger Cain, you'll see him in a second, and several other members, representatives from 4 different tribal communities in the Southeast: the Choctaw Nation, United Keetoowah Band of Cherokee Indians, Jena Band of Choctaw Indians, Chitimacha Tribe of Louisiana. We got together and formed a planning team, and through some iterations and discussion, we decided to call ourselves the Rivercane Gathering, and we co-developed a logo over time, which we love because it represents a lot of different cultural traditions. But we developed this idea, which really speaks to what Rob and Kimmerer was talking about yesterday. It's just the power of bringing people together and the power of just enhancing communication. So we were really just setting out to bring artisans, tribal knowledge, traditional knowledge holders, land managers together just to talk about what's going on with rivercane across the region, because things were happening all over the place, but there wasn't great interaction and sharing of those ideas. And if somebody was doing something really innovative with restoration, other people should know about it. And so we did this, and here's the planning team. Just like, it's nice to put faces to names. Apparently I did not get the memo about wearing blue that day. So but I have an immense gratitude to get to work with all such amazing people. And we're really guided along the way in our journey together around some regional considerations about who should be involved in these talks around restoration. How do we involve science? How do we respectfully involve Indigenous knowledge and consider data sovereignty as we do that? And what are our responsibilities to rivercane and to each other? And so over the last 5 years, we've been doing that, and we're still in process. So just like last night's keynote, we don't necessarily have a ton of answers yet. We're in process, but it's really important to share the process. So we meant to have an in-person convergence, a gathering, back in 2020, March of 2020. And you can imagine what happened. So we pivoted to some webinars and videos, and this was really guided by our communities, by asking people within our communities, what should we be talking about? You know, we were sending out surveys, we're sending out, like, requesting feedback, like, what kind of topics do y'all want information about? Like, what can we do? Some of it was really simple stuff that land managers had questions about, like, how do I differentiate rivercane from an indigenous non-native golden bamboo species? So Roger made a video. You know, there's all these different components. We talked about storytelling. We talked about how to obtain source materials for restoration projects. restoration techniques, carbon stewardship. We're going all over the place, but this is really guided by our community that we're generating together and the questions they're asking. So after a couple of years of doing that, finally, 2 months ago, we got together in person. And I just thought it was amazing that this was a billboard, kind of like you'd see a rock concert. This was Roger's doing in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where the meeting was held. But it was incredible. And I just want to share a little bit about that. We finally got 95 people came, 95 people from across the region to talk about one amazing plant, rivercane. And that included multiple representatives of 12 different tribal communities. So we were just so honored. And we spent an entire day in the field, getting to meet rivercane, getting to learn about it together. Roger was in his element in the cane break teaching people. We had incredible opportunities to witness flowering cane. This particular species has flowering events incredibly seldomly, like once every 30 or 40 years. So it was an incredible gift to encounter flowering rivercane, which Roger then collected the seeds and is now giving out to people. We spent time learning together from basket weavers. We have 3 amazing master basket weavers, Evelyn Steele of Choctaw Nation, Ms. Rose Fisher from the Gina Band of Choctaw Indians, and there's Ms. Shawna Cain. I told you you'd see her from the Cherokee Nation. Just incredible opportunities and these are land managers asking and learning what's important, and basket weavers saying, well, we're happy to share this, but we're not going to share this. You know, these are the things that we're negotiating and that we're talking through together. I only have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to hurry up. We spent a lot of time working together to think about, what do we need to talk more about? Let's spend the morning breaking up into roundtables and let's talk about that intertribal basketry workshop. Let's talk more about cane mapping and what that means, and think about the data privacy issues around that. And let's get deeper into these subjects together. And that's what we did. And that's kind of where we are. We're moving on. And I have way more to tell about that experience, but except that we're still processing it, and it's one part of something that seems like it's snowballed over the last 3 or 4 years. So for what I just shared, there's probably like 50 more projects out there happening. You know, we just happen to be bringing people together, which is such an important function. So we're currently redefining our mission statement. We brought people together. Now what are we doing? You know, like what should we be thinking about now? How do we get more basket weavers involved as we're working? Within our gathering, we asked these questions, and we all agreed that instead of a more conference style, next year we're doing a hands-on project. We're going to be going to a community and working on a hands-on restoration project together, and that's what we're going to be doing. And this is powerful work. You know, it's powerful thinking about our relationships to rivercane, our relationships to each other, and especially in this context of tribal land managers, federal land managers, knowledge holders. It's just an honor to be part of this process. And thank you. I will just give a quick hint of some of the things that have been coming out of our efforts. So we have multiple restoration projects happening across the region on national forests of Mississippi, national forests of Texas. There is a community science project that's spraying up around rivercane mapping, led by Roger and myself. Roger recently got $1 million for a grant to restore rivercane and also create jobs within his community and teach how to weave rivercane baskets. This is amazing work that's happening. We're asking questions about how can land managers not just restore cane, but think about managing it, co-managing it with tribal communities to produce that basket quality cane, because we know not every cane is good for baskets, right? Or good for these cultural uses. So that care is really important. And then there's other things that have come up too. Again, asked for by community about like, how can we tell people how great rivercane is by demonstrating that it's really good at sequestering carbon? let's think about these multiple values of rivercane. How does it do as a phytoremediation species? Because there's a lot of issues around water pollution in Arkansas and Oklahoma. So these are some of the things that are springing from this. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much.